With Gabriel Medina and Johanne out with knee injuries, can anyone beat Felipe Toledo at Jeffreys Bay? We're going to talk about that and more. Hey everyone, I'm Old Surf Dad, and in this J-Bay preview, we're going to look at the surf forecast for Jeffreys Bay. Then we're going to get into some key stats in the Old Surf database. And finally, I'm going to make my men's and women's fantasy picks. But first, let's check in with our Fantasy Surf League. Okay, so last warning, I will be closing the Fantasy League to new teams to keep the trophy award fair to those regulars in the league. If you'd like to get in under the deadline, just go to oldsurfdad.com for more details. And make sure that you're subscribed to the channel to be eligible. All right, let's congratulate the winners from the Oi Rio Pro, starting with the sniper for the Rio win. He's joined our list of event champions in the Hall of Fame at oldsurfdad.com. But wait, I have to talk about the sniper's picks for a moment. It was perfect. Every selection the right one. Go in and look at the league. That's why dude was #1 in the world in the last event. Right on. Apple A-Fame was runner-up at #2. A very consistent Dave Bob comes in at #3 for the second week in a row. The Proclaimers in the 4th position, and B-Man 4-Man Kraus rounds out the top 5. Congratulations to you all. Now let's look at the overall rankings following the Oi Rio Pro event. JTT holds on to the #1 spot on our leaderboard and is ranked 20th in the world. Kep stays close behind in 2nd place. The Proclaimers move into #3, and Dave Bob checks into the rankings at the 4th position. And finally, Madeirans stays on the list at #5. Okay, moving on to the surf forecast for Jeffreys Bay. Let's get into it. As I make this video, we are a week away from the event window, and it looks like some decent swell is predicted for the start of the waiting period. Surf Model shows several large storms moving across the Atlantic and approaching South Africa. You'll notice that these are the same storms that gave Brazil waves in the last event, and it's been an active winter in the southern hemisphere. The winds look to be strong to moderate offshores on opening day, July 12th. I will revise this forecast. I expect things to change as we get closer to the event, so subscribe to this channel if you want to receive those updates. How about let's look into the Old Surf database to help us make our picks. Yo, the Old Surf database is about to deliver. Even if you're not a full-on fantasy geek like me, you're going to love some of these revealing stats. Let's dive in. Let's start with the wildcards, and remember, I create these videos in advance, so it may be old news by the time you're watching this, but Tia Blanco and Josh Faulkner are the JB wildcards so far. Tia is getting her last Ultimate Surfer wildcard here at Jeffreys Bay, and what a great place to cash in that ticket. Now, Tia's a good surfer, but in my opinion, just not at the level of the rest of the field. Josh Faulkner is a J-Bay local ripper, much in the way that Brian Perez, aka the Pink Panther, was in Punta Roca, except Josh is a goofy footer. I watched some of Josh's clips, and I think the judges will like the way he flows between his power turns. He's also got air game, but like El Salvador's Perez, doesn't have a lot of competitive experience yet. Want a feel-good moment? Check this out.
My goal is always to make the World Tour and surf the JB Open at home and all of that. So yeah, my #1 is definitely to serve the JB Open. It's home, it's everyone's here, so my family can't travel with me, so this would be the ideal spot to like get them there and they can see how I surf and yeah.
Joshe, I've got the honor and to tell you that WSL has awarded you the wild card for 2022.
Oh my God!
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Wow. Oh my God. No ways. You're so stuck.
Well done.
Thank you guys so much. Wow.
Now let's look at the injury report. Both Johanne and Gabriel Medina are out of J-Bay with MCL knee injuries, while Tyler Wright and Bear Mamiya are back in the mix. Now Kelly, who has been allegedly injured, seems to be coming along in his rehab as shown here at Can Do A Left recently. If the surf forecast is good, I would expect to see the GOAT back at J-Bay. All right, let's look at some past results starting with the men's semis in 2017. You see the eventual finalist Gabriel Medina and Felipe Toledo. Unfortunately, Gabriel won't be around to defend his 2019 victory, but this was Felipe's year with a remarkable performance. We'll get more into that in a moment. In 2018, Felipe was back and found his way into the finals again, defeating Kanoa Igarashi. On the other side of the draw, Jordy Smith lost a close heat to Wade Carmichael. Wade surfed a strong heat against Felipe, but it wasn't enough, and Felipe took his second J-Bay Open Championship in a row. Now this may look familiar, not the Chloe Andino part, but the Brazilian Storm part. There you have the big three in the semis with Gabriel Medina and Elo Ferreira making the finals. This is significant because before this year, there had never been a goofy-footed champion, men's or women's, at J-Bay. Gabriel Medina's win set up an eventual battle at Pipeline, with Elo winning the world title. In 2022, Felipe is coming in as a favorite with 2 championships at J-Bay, and he's in a strong class of surfers that include Joel Parkinson, with Jordy and Jake also having 2 consecutive wins. Here's who Felipe is potentially chasing. Both Mick and Kelly have 4 wins each at J-Bay, and if it weren't for a shark that got in Mick's way in the 2015 finals with Julian Wilson, he may have had a 5th championship. By the way, the WSL split the points that year and gave Mick Fanning and Julian Wilson equal second place. So, slight nod to Mick for, let's say, 4.5 championships. Now let's look at the 3 men's surfers with the best J-Bay heat win percentages. The first is Kelly Slater. His 73% is the highest in the entire draw. However, his win percent this season is only 35%. It's a similar story for Jordy Smith, who has one of the highest J-Bay heat win percentages, but his numbers for the season are only 38%. Now, I should also mention that Jordy had 3 10-point rides at J-Bay, and 2 of them in the same heat, earning him the extremely rare perfect heat. Now let's look at Felipe, who has solid numbers for both J-Bay at 67% and for the 2022 season with a whopping 78%. These are power surfer numbers, and only John can match that kind of consistency, but he won't be there to defend them. Now let's take a moment and remember his 2 10-point rides. We can stare in awe at the clip that's probably one of J-Bay's most famous 10s. It's a double ollie-oop, and it's insane. Just look at it. But some forget about this little tube gem to double slash for another 10. It's incredible. I think Felipe shows his arsenal of weapons and his variety and approach in these 2 clips. Moving to the women, there have only been 2 years of recent competition in 2018 and 2019. Here's what the 2018 semis look like, with Lakey beating the South African Olympic silver medalist and Steph showing her point break form against Tatiana, advancing to the finals. Steph would beat Lakey in perfect 6-foot waves that featured dolphins taking off on some sets. In the 2019 women's semifinals, Carissa beat Carolyn Marks, and Lakey returned to the finals for the second time by defeating Malia Emanuel. More beautiful J-Bay walls were on offer for the final, and Carissa used her aggressive turns to take home the big trophy. When doing some research, I thought it was interesting how far and beyond Stephanie Gilmore surfs against her competition at J-Bay with an 87% win ratio, and how, in contrast, Tyler Wright has no stats at all. It was then I remembered that South Africa is where Tyler caught influenza A and struggled with post-viral syndrome for 2 years, suffering chronic fatigue. Well, how will she do at J-Bay? Remember, she dominated at another cold right-hand point called Bells this year, and if she brings that same fire, she could take out the event. As a reminder, this season we've had 8 events, and each one has had a different champion. It's wide open. When we look at women's heat scores at point breaks, Tyler is in the conversation, although Carissa and Steph are nearly a full point ahead. While we're at it, let's look at men's point break specialist, and there we see what we would expect. In fact, you may even find your power surfer on this list. Just don't pick Gabriel Medina. Have I given you enough to think about? Let's make some picks. Starting with women's tier A, in my last video, I hyped Carissa and she delivered. It wasn't pretty, but she finally got her first win of the year. Congratulations. Now I'm going to pick her again, but seeing how hungry Johanne is, and knowing how well Lakey has done at J-Bay, makes this a difficult choice. Still, I'm going with Carissa and making her my power surfer. In Women's Tier B, Stephanie Gilmore is an easy choice as we talked about her outstanding heat win percentage at J-Bay. Let's toggle the switch and show the Jeffries stats. Boom, 87.5%. I think Steph could be considered a power surfer here as well. The other pick is more challenging. I like that Brisa Hennessy showed up to J-Bay right from Rio and is getting some surfing in. I think Tati has the talent to be the first women's Goofy Foot champion at J-Bay, but I'm going with Gabriela Bryan. I don't think anyone realizes how consistently good she is, and I believe she'll do well on Jeffries' long, fast walls. Currently, Tier C has only 2 selections. I expect Tia Blanca will be added, as we talked about, and probably some others, but these 2 are all I need. This is a coin toss. Do I take Tyler's potential to have another Bells-type run, or do I stay with the solid performances that Caroline Marks has put together since her return? I'm taking Caroline only because she's from Florida, and so am I. Moving on to Men's Tier A, I asked the question at the beginning of the video, can anyone beat Felipe Toledo at J-Bay? The answer is yes. Felipe's biggest threat may be Idolo, who beat him in the last J-Bay event in the 2019 semifinals, as we saw in the Old Surf database. Jack Robinson and Griffin Colapinto both beat him this year in a finals with last-minute heroics. While some blame bad judging, looking deeper, Felipe contributed to these losses with tactical errors that cost him, most notably letting Griffin get a winning wave under his priority in El Salvador. Still, I'm taking Felipe and making him my power surfer. His numbers and performances are just too strong here, and he seems totally in sync with this wave. My other Tier A pick is going with my dark horse for the event, and that's Kanoa Igarashi. If we toggle the switch, we see Kanoa has a 62% heat win percentage at J-Bay and an average heat score of 14.45. That's better stats than anyone else here other than Felipe. I'll take Kanoa and acknowledge that I'm leaving a lot of good surfers behind. And I didn't even mention Ethan Ewing. How beautiful will it be to see him surf this wave? Dang. All right, moving to Tier B. I'm going to call this Reselect Alley and start with Callum Robson because, remember, he was runner-up at Bells. Then I'll go with the South African. No, not Geordie, but Matthew McGillivray, who grew up at J-Bay and has had better results in Geordie since Margaret River. Next, I'll take Connor O'Leary just because I have no Goofy Foot on my men's team, and I used to love watching Wilco surf here, and of course, let's not forget Aki. And finally, I'll go Sammy Pupo because he just keeps getting better. Now, Kelly will probably take someone's place if he shows up, but I think he's having way too much fun in Indo. The men's Tier C picks aren't nearly as exciting as they were in Rio, but we're due for a refresh, and again, I'm making this video a week ahead. For now, I'll probably pick and keep Jackson Baker, and then I'll select Seth Moniz, who may still be out due to injury. When the update picks come, I'll probably go with Josh Faulkner, whose name I'm probably not saying correctly. And there they are, the best picks in the world. Well, for me anyway. What do you think? Who are your power surfers? Where did I get it right and where did I get it wrong? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, I will put my reselects in the description below. Moving on to survival, only 69 players remain, and I'm one of them. There are no more favorites left to pick, but I like Callum Robson to make it through and continue my streak. Let's go. Hey, if you got some of this video, give it a like. It really helps the channel. And I want to take a moment and tell you how much I appreciate all of you that have subscribed. If you haven't yet, feel free to join us. Hey, good luck with your fantasy team, and we'll see you on the next one.